Hello, my name is Nick LeForce. I'm happy to be here with Marina in Santa Cruz. And I want to share a poem with you about freedom. And for me, freedom has been a kind of a quality of life that I've been seeking, not in terms of the freedom that you might have to do anything you want in the world, which is what a lot of people use to define as freedom, but the freedom that comes from within you, and particularly the freedom to see and experience and know the beauty of the world rather than getting trapped in our conscious ideas and lost in our mind about the way things should be. So I wrote this poem, it's called Freedom. I don't have it memorized, so I'm going to be reading it, so I'll be looking up and down as I do. So freedom. And it's as if I'm addressing freedom or talking to freedom. I love you like a caged animal loves the beauty of the world. You are the land where what's wild in me lives, the home where I belong. I awaken each morning, eyes filled with the last sight of you, heart dancing between danger and delight in your embrace. With you, nothing in life is barred. All things may come and go. I long for the key that will open me to you again. Afraid I have lived life locked, too long to step through the door. And I know I can always love you from the inside safely, like a caged animal loves the beauty of the world.
Wow.
Thank you.
What to say after this? Are you a free man? Do you feel that you're free?
You know, sometimes, it's an interesting thing, the
Yes.
feeling of freedom, because, we live in a world that does have expectations and desires and wishes for us, and we live in a world in which we have limited resources. And, no matter, I think, how wealthy you might be, when you recognize that we live in a world of limited resources, we have to make choices. And just in terms of our time in life, we have to make choices about what we do with our time. So there's always constraints. The question is, how do you hold those restraints inside of you? And do you see those restraints as a gift rather than as a limitation? Because if you see them as a limitation,
Yes.
then you'll get caught up in the spin in the world and you'll feel like you're a victim or whatever, the spaces we go to. But if you see them as a gift, in other words, it would be like, I think it was the composer Stravinsky that said, when I limit myself to a certain instrument or a range of notes, then I'm most creative. And I think if we find the limits that help hold our self intact, you could say, then we can bring our creativity to the forefront.
I always say also, are you spending your time or investing your time?
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Many people say, oh, I don't have time for this, for that. I spend my time on this, but we never
Right.
talk about the investment.
Right,
Because it's all about
exactly.
investing your time.
Yeah.
And when you are conscious about investment,
Uh-huh.
then the time gets a different dimension.
Yeah, exactly.
You
yeah.
have then time for
Yeah,
many things.
exactly,
Because you
exactly.
invested. How do you get inspiration about the writing? Because people in Macedonia said, no, we don't know about your poetry. I was so happy to meet you and I get so inspired. I said, I have to talk to Nick. So I'm really happy to share your poetry with the people on the Balkan.
Uh-huh.
But tell me, you said yesterday in our party, we had an NLP party, that you get inspired in the morning.
Yeah, actually, I write every day.
You write,
A lot of people think inspiration means that you get this like overwhelming or this something that just compels you to write. And I believe actually inspiration in English comes from to breathe. It's actually as if something is breathing into you. So originally, the word inspire was that it was almost like the god Apollo in the Greek tradition was inspiring you, god of poetry, breathing into you. So actually, if you think of how you breathe, most of us don't consciously breathe. It's almost like we're being breathed into. Air is coming into us.
Yes.
So for me, I think inspiration is all the time. It's not like you have to go out and find it.
Yes.
It's happening all the time.
Or
Like,
waiting to come.
yeah, like I can look around at these trees and start to look at the variation in colors on the trees' leaves. And to me, that's a thing of beauty. So I'll look for contrast in the world or something that's intriguing and curiosity, and I begin to wonder about it. And actually, I have 5 steps to my writing process.
That's what we want to learn, because I wrote a book.
Uh-huh.
And now that you are mentioning that, I was thinking that I have to sit down and wait, and then I get frustrated because nothing is coming.
Right.
So I want to hear, what are
Yeah.
the 5 steps.
Yeah, and so first step is presence, bringing yourself into the present.
Okay.
So a lot of times we're distracted and we're actually in our minds, especially when it comes to writing, making
Yes.
judgments, or thinking, God, there's nothing there. Actually, you could write about having nothing there, which I often do. I sat down to write and nothing came up.
Yes. And then comes
Yeah,
up.
and then you just keep flowing with it,
Yeah.
And I judged myself for it. And guess what? As I judged myself, I began to discover that I could follow my thoughts like a train on a track to a destination I do not even know. So
What
then
is
it
the
becomes like a poem.
destination?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, so the first step is presence. It's bringing yourself into the present. And second step is engagement with something. So first you just notice the world around you. You bring yourself into the moment. Second thing is engagement with something, which might be something in the outer world. So maybe something like the sand in this little area here. There's sand in front of us.
Yes.
So I could start looking at the sand and patterns in the sand. So now I've directed my attention in a certain place.
Okay, so that means that like you are dissociation, you make dissociation from something, from yourself maybe, then you put the focus on something, then the mind start to
Well, it's
the
more like,
inspiration
in a way,
comes
it's more like associating with it. So I'm
Associate.
connecting with
You can
this.
go a little bit
Yeah.
back because
I know the
sun
sun. The
so
sun is.
beautiful
The
here.
sun just wants us. Maybe a little bit more over here. Okay.
Yeah, the sun is saying
Yeah.
hello.
Yes.
No, I'm still in the sun.
Oh,
Yes.
let's go. We'll take a few more steps. This is as far
Oh,
back as
yes.
we can go without taking steps down.
It's so
Oh,
nice
yeah.
and green. So the second
Step is
is
engagement. So engagement means
Yeah.
you choose something to put your attention on.
okay.
So you begin to connect with something in the world particular. So in the first step, presence, you could just be noticing things around you. And sometimes for a writer, as a writer, in that first step, I might notice the tree and just make comments, write down a few things about a tree. Oh, tree, 5 pointed leaves, something about the tree, a descriptive
Okay.
statement about the tree. So I'm not totally engaged, I'm just sort of noticing. But then I might choose to pay more careful attention to the tree leaves or the sandbox. Once you choose one thing to pay attention to, then you begin the third step, which is reflection. And in English, reflection has 2 meanings.
Okay.
So one is reflection like a mirror. So in NLP, the world of neuro-linguistic programming, we have this concept of representational systems.
Yes.
And this idea of representation, which means the world is out there, but we represent the world inside of us in whatever form we've determined or created or in our
Yeah.
lifetime formed in our
picture,
experiences.
sound,
Yeah, in
feeling,
pictures,
feeling.
sounds, feelings.
Okay.
We represent it inside. So in a way, mirroring is when I begin to recognize that sand out there also exists in me. That tree also exists in me. And I could even at that point even associate with it. Like, what's it like to be the sand?
Yes.
The sand that just waits there patiently day after day and wonder what it waits for.
Yes.
Or the dappled effect of the sunlight on the sand. So it's shaded, but there are little spots of light on the sand. So I could begin to connect with those things.
Yes.
And reflect them inside of me. And in that reflection, in that sort of becoming of it, I also begin to get some deeper sense of what it is.
Yes.
Then the second reflection is a dissociation. It's a reflection about that.
Okay.
So it'd be like, well, what does this mean to me? What is this teaching me or telling me? Or what is this reminding me of in my life? Or what's this a metaphor for?
Wow.
And then as I'm thinking about those things, I begin to, continue to write notes about that. So first step
Okay.
is presence, second
Yes.
step is engagement, third step is reflection with the 2 parts. Taking it in and
Yeah.
then reflecting on it. And the fourth step is cultivation. So once you get some content,
Okay.
then you can begin to play with it. And the simplest form of cultivation for me as a poet, when I'm writing a poem, is I take what I have and I might just break it into poem lines. So rather
okay,
than just sentences, I break it into lines of
Yes.
poetry. Or maybe I go back and edit a little, or maybe I move sentences around. All that is cultivation. It's taking what you've formed and now you're starting to shape it in some way.
Yes.
And in that shaping process, you get to some place that might be a finished or kind of finish.
Yeah.
It could go on after that, but kind of finish. And that's when, for me, the last step is expression. It's when you've got what you've done and you bring something back to the world from that.
Okay.
Now, for me, it would be a poem, but it could be a parent and how they parent. So they might have an experience in life
Yeah.
They notice something, they engage with it, they reflect on it, they cultivate that reflection into a new way of parenting or a new way of addressing an issue with a child.
So
Or
you
it
can
could
do with
be,
everything,
yeah,
actually.
it could be an executive who
Yes.
runs a business who's, oh wow, I could use this in team building.
Yeah.
So for
That's
me, what this really is about, it's how do we transform experience into wisdom? That's really what this is about.
and outer world and inside of us. It's
Right.
all the time connection.
Exactly. In fact, my next book
Yes.
is called The Undiscovered Country, and the subtitle, How to Live in Your Own Heartland. And it's based on a map of the archetypal journey that I
Yes.
created. The map is based on the outer world and the inner world, the known and the unknown, which creates 4 quadrants. And each quadrant has tasks and activities for exploring and developing yourself. So,
And the 5 steps are from your first book.
yeah, 5 steps are in a book called Bearing Witness.
Yes, that's just about writing, how to.
It's
steps.
actually just a book of poetry, but I describe my poetry process and I divide poems into those areas.
Oh,
Yeah.
interesting.
And I call that process bearing witness, the process of presence, engagement, reflection, cultivation,
Yes.
and expression. It's like we're bearing witness to the world, and the sun is also saying hello again.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hi. We are now turning
We
this
can
way.
go. Yeah. We can
Oh,
actually
we can-
step if you are careful here.
Yes.
We can step
No,
down.
it's a beautiful
We can actually move
environment
over here now.
Anyway, people can.
This is called a mobile interview. It's on a mobile phone, and we're moving, so I think we need to actually
so,
maybe.
and the sun is so, and we
It's
might
rising fast.
Yeah. We can also be surprised from an animal. Eh?
Right.
So, when did you start to write?
Well, I started
When
writing.
did you discover that you
Yeah.
have that in you?
Started writing actually when I was 13 years old. I wrote a book of fiction. It was a spy novel. I was really into spies and
Yes.
secret agents at the time. And actually, I think I'm still a secret agent,
That's
really.
why you have this.
Yeah, it's
they always wear a hat.
Yeah.
The secret agent.
Right? And I like the idea of a secret agent because a secret agent is somebody who's not out there in the world in a big way so much, but they're doing amazing things behind the scenes. It's like and when I think of secret is always something intimate inside. It's like the secret agent is the one that touches your heart and opens possibilities. I want to be that secret agent.
You are with your poetry. But all of us, we have a secret agent inside.
Yeah,
us.
exactly. So that's the agent I talk to.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, so I started writing when I was 13, but I was dissuaded from writing. It was, like not a career one would choose to follow, and there was nothing like the internet and all this stuff where you
Cannot
can put
make money, they say,
cannot
with
make
poetry.
money, and yeah, so I kind of put it aside. But I've always kept a journal, and I did write poetry when I was young and periodically through life. But really, I began in a committed way to write poetry in the mid 90s. I would say 1996, 97.
And now you are combining that with coaching, with training.
Yeah.
And, did you invest a lot in your personal development?
Yeah, actually, when I was young
Yeah.
and, writing in my journal, I had an English teacher in high school who was very inspirational to me. And he was a man who lived a very unique life. In fact, he represented to me somebody who could live a different kind of life and live true to himself. So he was a great inspiration for that. And he inspired me to write in a journal, and he also inspired me to study Jung, C.G. Jung, and archetypes, and got me interested in psychology and interested in humanities and literature and all kinds of things that he was an inspiration for. But at that time, and just out of high school, I wrote in my journal, and I remember distinctly writing in my journal a long kind of document about making a commitment to myself and how could I hold that commitment to myself when I needed to live in the outer world, that there had to be some dance between the two. And I think my whole life has really been about that. How do you keep committed to yourself but dance in the real world in an authentic way?
I also write a journal all my life.
yeah.
Yes, I love that. That's my secret agent.
Ah,
I put everything there. You put your soul there.
right, yeah.
Yes, and
yeah.
also inspiration and everything. And tell me, you're also traveling around? And
Yeah.
Do also trainings, what I
Right,
understood?
yeah.
Yes. About what?
Yeah, so I've been doing training in NLP and
Yes.
coaching and hypnotherapy for many, many, many years. Good deal of my training is in Asia, so I do a lot of work in China, Malaysia, Indonesia, Japan, a few times to Europe, some in Mexico,
Yes.
around the United States. So mainly my career has been built around NLP practitioner, master hypnotherapy, and
Yes.
NLP trainer training, coaching. I taught an ICF certified coaching programs for a number of years. So that's what I've been, as a career, that's what I've developed. But what I've been doing over the past few years is merging poetry with that and beginning to make my own kind of, as I mentioned, this map of an archetypal journey to use as a way to help people find their secret agent and
Yes.
live more in that place where they can be their own secret agent in the world, bring that forth in the world. And I think that's really necessary for us now. I
Yes.
mean, literally, I think what will save our world is us bringing our true selves to the community. But
For-
first, we got to get to know that true
Yes,
self.
I just wanted to say first you have to find it. Eh?
Exactly,
What is in your
exactly.
core, what
Right.
drives you, what inspires you in life.
Right.
And I think now when you read the poem, I think from this poem you can make the whole training.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
So a lot of times I will use a poem. I use a poem for three reasons. One is I'll use a poem to evoke some kind of experience or invoke some kind of experience in the room. The second one is as an introduction to a topic. So I'm going to talk about a particular topic, like today we'll be doing a thing on arts and
Yes.
NLP.
Yes.
That's going to be followed with Judith Lowe doing a program on persuasion and reframing. So I'll share a poem in the arts part about how I would use a poem to introduce belief change, say, or persuasion. And then the third one is poetry is a very evocative in terms of it connects you to a deeper part of yourself, I believe. So I will use poetry to basically to slow people down from our world and have them connect to themselves and connect to particular parts of themselves, bring something forth from within them.
Yes, the poetry for me it speaks the language of your unconscious. That's what I feel.
Yeah, I say poetry is the language of the soul.
Of the soul,
Yeah.
yes. And who is for you inspiration? Which poet?
Well, there are lots of poets that inspire me. I mean, contemporary poets, there's David White, who's an amazing poet. Mark Nepo is also an amazing poet. Mary Oliver, who just unfortunately passed away, is an incredible poet. And so I've used their contemporary work as an inspiration, but I like people like William Stafford,
Yes.
William Blake. There are lots of great poets. Emily Dickinson. They're just some incredible poets. To me, I think I've been inspired by poems as much as by poets.
Yes.
So I think sometimes you find a poet and they can have a broad range of work. Like I have actually a pretty broad range of work. But I'm sure not everybody's going to like every single poem. Some of them I don't even like.
That's normal.
Right.
Because so everybody is authentic, their
Yeah.
own, and you are not connected with everyone. It's
Right.
impossible.
And I believe, for me, it's like, how do we tap into the river of life?
Yeah.
And the river of life that's flowing through us gives us a different drink at different moments. And so, I want to drink from the well that's there for me to drink from.
Very nice. And did you ever been to Balkan?
No, I've never been to the
So-
Balkans. Yeah, it'd be great to visit there and discover what other secret agents are there.
Oh yes, a lot. It will be nice, really, to have training from you about writing,
Yeah. Uh-huh.
because that's also an inner process.
Right, right.
To bring something
Yeah.
what is inside to
This idea, the archetypal journey map that I
Okay.
call it, with the outer world, the inner world, the known and the unknown, is actually a personal growth and writing class, because a lot of it is through
Yes,
writing.
yeah,
So I include writing prompts and encourage people to do a process called free writing. Free writing is when you just let the pen flow across the
Yeah.
page and write whatever. Even if you don't know what to write, you say, I don't know what to write.
Yeah.
This is stupid. You write, this is stupid.
And what about this kind of courses, writing in the corporate world?
It's interesting because poets in the corporate world have appeared. David White, in fact, did training with Boeing and some other organizations. I've been invited by a couple of organizations to do training with a financial planning organization that felt they needed a new language to talk to clients that were retiring. And so they hired me to talk about how do you bring that poetic language into people who are making this transition. And a lot of them had accumulated a lot of wealth with strategies in their life and thinking patterns that served them to accumulate wealth but did not serve them to enjoy the life they had created. And so how do they begin to relanguage their life to do that?
That's interesting. I think that we need a lot of poetry in the corporate world.
Yeah, yes, definitely.
Yes. Now, fortunately, we have to stop because you have a great panel about the art and NLP. What to say for the last, maybe one sentence for the people on the Balkan? We like poetry a lot. We enjoy it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I would say listen to your heart and to what comes from that wellspring within you, and trust that it's there, even when you don't know it. Because I think a lot of times we can get caught up in that judgment part of us that's saying, "Oh, there's nothing there," or "I can't write," or and we get lost in that. And to kind of have permission, and I think partly it's having permission to just set that down and trust that if you let the process happen, if you get a little bit beyond that point of not knowing what to say, you could be amazed at what comes forth. I've had people in classes who say, "I can't write," and then they share something and it's like stunningly beautiful.
yes.
So it
Free
doesn't,
your soul.
yeah, exactly, free your soul. So thank you very much for joining us on this little time together
Yes.
here. And from our
Thank you.
time to your time, I say enjoy the freedom that lives inside of you and
Yes.
bring that to the world. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah.